Make sure to like and subscribe if you agree that real heroes never brag. They just keep moving, quietly, until the world needs them again. They said she was just a grocery clerk. A nobody. The kind of person you pass by every week and forget the second you leave the store. But if anyone had looked closer, really looked, they might have noticed how her eyes always scanned the exits. How her steps were too measured for someone who'd spent her 20s stacking shelves. It all started on a slow Tuesday morning in Ridgefield Market, with the smell of detergent and coffee thick in the air, and a woman named Ava Steele crouched between aisles, lining up cans of beans so perfectly it almost looked like discipline. No one knew that the hands holding those cans once dismantled bombs. No one knew that behind that quiet half-smile was a mind trained to assess threats before most people noticed a sound. Ava was 29, but her eyes carried decades of weight. She'd left something behind years ago, something that had taken her name, her sleep, and parts of her she didn't talk about. The name Steel Wolf hadn't been spoken aloud since the desert heat, since the night the comms went silent and her team never came home. Now she lived with the ghosts, shelf to shelf, shift to shift. She liked it that way, mundane, harmless, invisible. The supermarket hummed with the sounds of normal life, checkout scanners, gossiping cashiers, the soft thud of bread hitting shelves. A mother pushed a cart past Ava, whispering into her phone, complaining about prices. An old man asked where the sugar was, and Ava walked him to it with a gentle smile. She was always like that, quietly kind, never flinching, even when customers got angry. But sometimes, when no one was watching, she'd pause and listen. The air vents, the hum of the freezers, even the timing of the overhead announcements. Her instincts still ran surveillance, scanning patterns she couldn't switch off. "Hey, Ava," said Cole, her coworker, grinning as he wheeled past with a crate of produce. "You ever gonna come out with us? We're hitting the bar after shift again. I'm starting to think you're in witness protection or something." Ava smirked, tucking a can onto the top shelf. "I don't drink," she said softly. "Not anymore." Cole laughed. "You talk like you're 45. She just shrugged, eyes flicking to the security camera overhead, checking the red light. Habit. In the break room, she sat alone at lunch. Tuna sandwich, apple, black coffee. Same as always. A newspaper sat beside her, headlines about politics and rising fuel prices. Nothing about the world she used to know, the one full of black ops, burned files, and code names that vanished with their owners. She'd been gone too long to recognize any of it now. But sometimes, when the wind shifted, she swore she could still smell the oil and dust of her last mission. Her phone buzzed once. Just spam. Still, her pulse spiked for half a second. She hated that it did. That day, something in the air felt wrong. She couldn't explain it. The radio was playing softly, Fleetwood Mac, and the rhythm was steady until it wasn't. Just a flicker of static. Barely half a second, but enough to make Ava's hand freeze midair. She glanced up toward the store ceiling, toward the sound system. Then she forced herself to breathe and kept stacking cans. Old instincts die hard, but they still whisper when they sense a change. A young mother nearby dropped a box of cereal. Ava turned instantly, kneeling to help her pick it up. The woman apologized, flustered. Her little boy was crying, tugging at her sleeve. Ava crouched, so her eyes met the boy's. "Hey," she said quietly. "That's a strong grip you've got there, soldier." The boy blinked, tears stopping midstream. He smiled. Ava winked, then helped his mother gather the groceries. "You're good to go," she said gently. The mother nodded, surprised by how calm and grounded Ava seemed. "Thank you, you're so kind." Ava only smiled. That same faint smile she always wore when someone said, "Thank you." It wasn't kindness, it was habit. She'd spent years holding people together in places where no one ever said thank you. Back near the back room, she passed the employee bulletin board. Someone had taped up a poster. Employee of the Month, Ava Steele. She stared at it for a moment. The picture showed her smiling awkwardly, uncomfortable in front of the camera. The manager had called her our quiet rock. She'd laughed at that later, under her breath. A rock, sure, but not the kind anyone should stand on. Outside, the sky was turning gray. Storm clouds rolled in from the west. She always noticed storms before anyone else. They carry pressure, noise, patterns, just like the ones that used to roll over her convoy in the old days. She'd remember crouching under tin roofs while sand pelted down like rain. She'd remember the voices on comms, Steel Wolf, Hold position. Steel Wolf, we're losing signal. She could almost hear it again now, as thunder cracked faintly over the parking lot. Ava shook it off. Just memory. Nothing more. In aisle 9, Cole was flirting with the cashier again, pretending to juggle oranges. Ava passed by, giving him a small smile. He laughed, calling after her. You could at least pretend to have fun, Steele. She didn't answer. She was listening again. Something under the hum of the lights, a flicker, a tone, faint but sharp, like static in her ear. She straightened slowly, scanning the speakers along the ceiling. Then it vanished. Silence. She rubbed her palms together, muttering, "You're just tired. Focus." But the truth was, she hadn't truly rested in years. Even when she slept, her dreams replayed the sound of boots on gravel, the hiss of an encrypted line, the thud of the last heartbeat before radio silence. The storm outside broke open with a crack. Rain began to slam against the glass doors at the front of the store. The automatic doors hissed open, letting in a rush of cold air. Customers hurried out, heads down. Ava kept working, expression unreadable, but her eyes flicked to the street beyond, scanning license plates, faces, habits she couldn't kill. It was a normal Tuesday. It was supposed to be. But somewhere deep in her gut, that old sense of timing, the one she trusted in battle more than radar, told her something was shifting. The lights flickered once more, then steadied. Ava exhaled and stacked the last can. Normal day, she whispered to herself. Just a normal day. But the camera lingered on her face as she stood there, quiet, poised, unknowingly on the edge of the world she'd left behind. Because in less than 2 minutes, someone was about to walk through those supermarket doors, and the name Steel Wolf was about to be spoken again, for the first time in 7 years. The phone rang at the customer service desk, a landline, the kind no one ever used anymore. The manager, a nervous man named Rudd, picked it up halfway through the second ring. His brows furrowed as he listened. Then his gaze shifted across the store until it landed on Ava in aisle 6. He hesitated, then called out, voice shaky but polite. Ava? There's someone on the line for you. Says it's urgent." Ava blinked. "For me?" Rudd nodded. They said their names. Director Lang. The name hit like a physical blow. Ava's grip tightened around the can in her hand. She hadn't heard that name in years, not since she'd signed her discharge papers and vanished into civilian silence. Her heart skipped once, hard, and she could feel the blood rush in her ears. She glanced up at the store cameras again, every old instinct coming alive before she could stop it. "I'll take it," she said quietly. She walked through the aisles like someone half awake, half pulled by something deep in her bones. The noise of the store seemed to fade, replaced by the low hum of memory, desert winds, comms chatter, the rhythmic thud of helicopter blades. The smell of detergent and floor cleaner gave way to dust and gun oil. Rudd handed her the receiver. He said, "It's classified?" Ava didn't respond. She brought the phone to her ear, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is Steele." A pause. Then, a man's voice, calm, deep, commanding. "Steel Wolf, mission time." The words dropped like thunder into the silence that followed. Rudd blinked. The other cashiers, pretending not to listen, froze. One of the baggers actually stopped mid-swipe, eyes wide. Ava's expression didn't change, but inside, something ancient and buried snapped back to life. Her jaw tightened. "Copy that," she said simply, and set the phone down without another word. The room felt smaller, heavier. No one spoke. Finally, Cole called from a few aisles away, half laughing, half nervous. What did he just call you?" "Steal something." Ava ignored him. She walked straight to the employee locker room, each step measured, steady. The sound of her boots on the tile echoed like old memories. Inside, she stopped in front of her locker, the one she hadn't opened fully since the day she'd been hired. Her fingers trembled only once before she unlocked it. The metal door swung open with a soft creak. Inside wasn't the clutter of an average worker. No lunchboxes, no perfume, no mirror. Just a single black duffel bag, the edges frayed but still intact. On top of it sat a folded patch, a snarling silver wolf head over crossed blades. Ava touched it gently, her breath catching. The world behind her, fluorescent lights, laughter, the hum of scanners, dissolved into the sound of old briefings, code names, and satellite feeds. She could almost hear Lang's voice again, The one she'd followed through chaos and fire. Steel Wolf, confirm extraction point. Copy. Coordinates locked. Then the explosion. Then silence. She'd told herself she'd buried that life for good. But now, with 3 words, it was standing right behind her again. She unzipped the duffel. Inside lay the fragments of a life no one in this town knew existed. Her tactical gloves, a matte black watch, a field medallion etched with the words Semper Vigilance. Always vigilant. Beneath them, a set of dog tags, tarnished, edges worn smooth. She stared at her reflection in the locker's small mirror. Gone was the tired store clerk. Her posture had changed, straighter, shoulders squared. Even her eyes were different, no longer weary, but sharp, calculating, alive. She pulled her hair back tighter, fastened the watch to her wrist, and slipped the patch into her pocket. When she closed the locker door, her own eyes stared back at her from the reflection, but they didn't belong to Ava the employee anymore. They belonged to Steel Wolf, the operator who'd once walked through fire and made it out breathing when no one else did. Outside, the intercom buzzed. Someone was calling her name over the speaker, but she didn't answer. She tied her boots, zipped the duffel, and walked out the back exit into the rain. The parking lot shimmered under the storm. A black SUV idled by the loading dock, headlights cutting through the gray. 2 men stood beside it, one in a dark trench coat, the other in fatigues. As she approached, the man in the coat turned. Director Lang. He hadn't aged well, silver hair now, face drawn, but his eyes were the same, sharp and unreadable. Didn't think I'd hear that name again, Ava said, stopping a few feet away. Lang's lips twitched into something like a smile. Neither did I, but we're out of time. He handed her a folder sealed in plastic. Intel breach. Ghost protocol reactivated. Your name came up. You were the failsafe. Ava looked down at the folder, the rain sliding off its surface. You know I'm not that person anymore. Lang met her gaze. That's exactly why you're perfect for this. No one suspects ghosts. The moment hung in the air. She could hear the storm, the faint hum of the SUV engine, the echo of her own heartbeat. She hadn't planned to go back. But something about the way he said it, no one suspects ghosts, hit something deep inside her. Finally, she exhaled. How bad is it? Lang's voice lowered. Worse than before. And this time, they know your name. Ava stared past him into the dark horizon, rain running down her face. Somewhere behind her, through the supermarket windows, she could see the silhouettes of her coworkers watching, confused, whispering. She almost smiled at the absurdity of it. A moment ago, she was counting cans. Now, the world was shifting again. Fine, she said at last. Give me 5 minutes. Lang nodded once. Welcome back, Steel Wolf. As she turned toward the car, Cool burst through the side door, shouting over the rain. Ava, what the hell's going on? Who are these people? Ava looked back at him, her voice calm but final. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. She climbed into the SUV, the door closing with a heavy thud. The engine roared to life, taillights glowing red against the storm. Inside, Lang handed her a headset. Comms are live. Mission brief on Channel 6. Ava took it silently, eyes forward. The rain kept falling, washing away the last traces of the quiet life she'd built. Somewhere behind her, in a small supermarket still humming under fluorescent lights, an empty locker stood ajar, the faint outline of a wolf patch barely visible in the dark. And for the first time in years, the name Steel Wolf was alive again. The SUV tore through the rain-soaked streets, headlights slicing the dark. Inside, Ava sat still, her reflection flashing across the window as city lights streaked by. The silence between her and Director Lang wasn't heavy. It was the kind born of people who'd seen too much to waste words. She watched the road, jaw tight, her pulse steady. It was like riding a bike she'd never forgotten how to balance. The control, the awareness, the sense that everything could change in a breath. Lang handed her a small device, a compact tablet glowing faint blue. Your old team's files. All redacted. But one entry survived. Ava scrolled down. A name blinked at her. Orion, the code name of the man she'd lost 7 years ago in Helix Canyon. Her hands froze. He's alive, she asked. Lang's expression was unreadable. That's what we need to find out. They stopped outside an unmarked hangar on the edge of the airfield. Floodlights hummed, cutting pale halos through the rain. Inside, a small strike team was prepping, men and women half Ava's age, moving with sharp precision. When she stepped out, a few of them turned, whispering. One of them muttered under his breath, "That's her. Steel Wolf." She ignored them. The code name wasn't a name anymore. It was a burden, something she'd spent years trying to outgrow. And yet, as she strapped on her gear, her old gloves fitting perfectly, muscle memory sliding back like it had been waiting all this time, she realized part of her had missed this. Not the violence, not the missions, but the clarity. The purpose. The knowing exactly who she was. Lang walked beside her to the transport. "You know this isn't a one-time op," he said quietly. "I know," she replied. "Nothing ever is." For a long moment, they just stood there as the engine started. Rain pounded the tarmac like static. In the flash of lightning, Ava looked less like a grocery clerk and more like the ghost of someone who'd never really died. Back in the town, the supermarket had gone silent. The storm was easing, the aisles glistening under fluorescent light. The manager still held the phone in his hand, repeating what he'd heard over and over. "Steel Wolf, mission time." Cole stood by the doors, staring at the empty parking lot. "She just left," he muttered. "Didn't even clock out." The young mother from earlier, the one Ava had helped, returned, drenched and carrying her son. She looked around, puzzled. "Where's that woman?" "The one who helped me." Cole hesitated. "She had to go." The woman smiled faintly. "Figures." She didn't seem like someone who stayed in one place long. Outside, thunder rolled again, softer now, like a distant drum fading into memory. Back at the hangar, the transport's ramp closed. Inside, Ava strapped herself in as the craft lifted off, its vibrations running through her bones. She looked down at her gloved hands, flexing them once. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out the wolf insignia, the same patch she'd carried for years, tucked away where no one could find it. She pressed it to her palm and whispered, "One more run." Lang's voice came through her comms. "You don't have to do this, you know." Ava smiled faintly. "I know, but someone has to." As the clouds swallowed the aircraft, the storm broke apart over the town below. The supermarket lights flickered back to steady, the aisles quiet again, as if nothing extraordinary had ever happened. But somewhere high above, the legend they thought had vanished was awake again, moving toward the horizon. And maybe, years from now, when someone told the story of the woman who once stacked cans in a supermarket, they'd speak in hushed tones about the moment she disappeared into the storm, when the world remembered her name not as Ava Steele, but as the operative who never stopped answering the call. Because heroes don't always retire. Some just rest, until the world whispers their name again. Steel Wolf.